Where this sort of came from, I was over at the London Cardiac Symposium in December, and a friend of mine, George Little, had previously said about some medical stuff being all voodoo. So we laughed. As we were at the cardiac conference, there was some cold water being poured on some of the more advanced stuff like therapeutic hypothermia, and Karen Broe was proposing open chest compressions, last seen in the 1940s. And then there was another speaker who was said he had gone back to using stacked shocks and whatnot. So as I came back bewildered about all these wonderful things that were now less wonderful than when I left, I said the only thing that we can be sure and certain about is that a moderately trained chimp with an AED getting to a scene fast is still going to save lives. So whatever else about everything else. So when I came back, I started looking at the concept of using how do we get people to a scene faster, and how do we get an AED to be used on a person in VF. So I was heartened to hear that FEC have a big pot of merit money going around, and maybe they might see fit to shed some love the way this concept as well in due course. You see from the picture there, obviously this is a trauma arrest. This is not what we propose sending people to. So look, I'll push on, and so basically what we're going to propose, we're going to say, why do you send guards to a cardiac arrest? And if you think of it from a point of view of the person in cardiac arrest, if you think about it from the view, looking down, when you're lying on the ground looking up, who do you want to come to you fast? You don't really care. VF doesn't care who comes. What VF needs is a moderately trained person who's willing to take on the role and is armed with a defibrillator, and that's really what's going to save people in the first instance. You could get a cardiologist arriving in half an hour, won't be half as much, or won't be any use at all really if the basics haven't been done fast. Okay, so if we take it from the patient's point of view, the first person to get to the scene, if that's an ambulance, great. If it's a policeman, a first responder, whatever it is, then that's great also. Obviously they'll all have to end up in the care of the ambulance service, but in the first instance, how can we get there as fast as we can and start the recovery process? Okay, just a couple of statistics. I'm not going to bore you with them, but just to show you, you see the graphs here. The one on the left in yellow is the National Ambulance Service, in blue is DFB, and on the right there is An Garda Síochána. So the graph on the left is in terms of numbers. Now I've included reserves as well in that because they're kind of rough figures. I asked several people to provide me with figures and they all kind of hedged, so the figures mightn't be exact to today's numbers. But roughly speaking, the Guards have 14,000 members, NAS with 1,400, DFB with 1,900. So there's a huge pool of people out there. In terms of vehicles on the road, NAS has about 350, give or take. DFB, ambulance-wise, we call it 20 or thereabouts. But the Guards have just short of 2,500 vehicles currently, even despite losing a few of late. And then in terms of number of bases, and despite having lost a few of them, the Guards still have, where the ambulance service I think are flagged for 94 or thereabouts bases, DFB approximately 14 I gave, but the Guards still have 664 or thereabouts bases around the country. Okay, so there's still, in terms of geographical spread and everything else, there's still a lot more Garda stations out there than ambulance bases. So we're certainly not trying to propose that the Guards would edge out the ambulance service, but even if the ambulance service doubled their numbers tomorrow morning, I still see huge value in a scheme like this. Then why the Guards, would you say? Well, the Guards, you can see the list there. All Guards are aged between roughly 20 and 50 to 60. They're all of a demographic that's suitable to respond. They're all experienced emergency people, so they're used to going to a scene and being able to act. Importantly, they work in cars with blue lights and sirens, so if they're out on patrol, they can immediately divert, skip through traffic and get to a scene faster than somebody responding from home, be it a GP or even a community responder. And when they get there, and if there is enough community responders or ambulance people or whatever else, they can then revert back to maybe directing traffic or to doing something else that may be useful for the scene also. Can it be done? Next question. And absolutely yes. I showed a picture of a door in the middle of the field because sometimes you see people only see the door and they can see no way around it. But what we need to do is we need to look at the way around. How can we achieve this? So if we decide, based on the few facts that I've given you so far, if we decide that this is a meritable project, if we decide it's worth running a trial, then I think that we certainly can overcome any potential obstacles. In the last number of years, there's over 1,200 guards have been trained from within in occupational first aid. There's many more have been trained. I've trained many of them myself in just CFR, many in EFR. So probably as closer to 2,000 guards have been trained to at least CFR level just by the way in the last couple of years, probably still current. And I think that with a very little push, it's easy to ramp that up and get to the position where we could have all guards qualified. Then it's a matter of just fine-tuning the call-out system. A couple of successes so far in Gorey. Without any, Gorey have a fantastic defibrillator scheme, but as part of that, they rang the local station, got the local guard to collect the defib off the wall, brought it out to, I believe it was a hotel, and got a great save down there. Again, that was an ad hoc use of a sort of a guard as a responder without an organised structure behind it. But it just goes to show what is possible. The regional support unit all carry defibrillators. They're all trained to at least OFA, but a lot of them are EFR. And they've had a number of saves, including one actually right here in Tullamore a couple of months back, where they responded on a text alert. Again, an ad hoc arrangement on a text alert. They got it and they supported a paramedic and a doctor who had arrived without a defib, and between them they got a save after a couple of shocks just down the road. So it's happening already. Another one then, there's been a call for all guards to get defib training as well. But there has been a number of other saves from guards using ad hoc arrangements. But what I'd like to see is a more structured arrangement put in place for the call-outs and such like. So what next? I would love to see a representative guarded division to be selected and trial done to see if it has an effect on save rates. The members are very eager to get trained. I know I was speaking to someone recently, and in-service, actually Des Kelly was telling me some Garda in-service people had started to run courses, and they were out on their feet with people trying to come in to get trained, and I find that as well, very willing participants. So we need to train the members, equip the cars with AEDs, and then work on a lean call-out system. And there is a facility coming up now to be used with missing persons, but could also be suitable for this, whereby the Tetra system issues a text alert via the Tetra radio. So in addition to the mobile phone text alert, there's this other Tetra text alert which could be looked at also. So that's my pitch. Any queries? Like I said, you can look me up or abuse me or whatever you want. And like I said, final thing, I just say sometimes we look and all we can see is the hole, and I'm saying we should stand back and let's have a look at the donut. Thank you.